Hello guys, this is your friend. We are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto has Kurama and Uzumaki Bloodline, Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. 6 months have passed since the near destruction of the village Konohagakure, their two saviors cast in opposite directions. Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage, sacrificed his life to end the threat of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. He was given the honor of being the greatest hero of the village. On the other side of this coin we have the 6-month-old infant Naruto Uzumaki, the chosen vessel and prison of the demon. Already the blonde child is feared, hated, despised and tortured and nearly killed on a regular basis. Why pray tell am I telling you this, and who am I to know such things as the third Hokage, back from his retirement had made the heritage of the boy a secret and to speak of what is held within him punishable by immediate death. Well, I am the great Kyuubi no Kitsune, the most powerful of all the demons and biju of this world. But I am practically as powerless as the infant who holds me prisoner. For now this is my story to tell you, now be a humble mortal and listen to what I have started doing to ensure my survival from within this damnable seal. Unlike most demons that have the unfortunate mishap of becoming sealed, I stayed awake and lucid during the transference. I who have no fear will admit to quaking before the presence of the Shinigami, and the man who summoned him. He, unlike all of you, have earned my respect, though he has passed on, I have passed that respect on to his only son and my jailer. Like I have said, it has been only 6 months since that day, and already I have had to heal wounds no child should have to endure. Burns, cuts, broken bones, brain damage, seals upon his chakra paths, ruptured spleens, kidneys, bladders, stab wounds through his heart and so much more. But today is special for my unknowing host, as today I will start to correct the damage and make him better for it. After all, the longer he lives, the longer I too shall live, damn this seal. From this point forward I will continue to heal him from their attacks, and attempts on both our lives. Yet, I will change him, to make him stronger. They break his bones, I will repair them, and make them stronger. They destroy his eyes, I will make them better. I am sure you get the picture, but today I have my work cut out for me, yes, even as a demon I will have to toil harder than should be needed. As they have taken him to be an effigy of my defeat and once more are trying to kill him and myself. Now leave me, as I have much to do if I intend for us both to survive. 3 years later. Once more I am forced to upgrade my prison. This simple mortals could not distinguish between a demon sealed in a boy, nor could it seem if they could tell the difference between a kunai and the scroll they have sealed it within. I have made his bones unbreakable to those who cannot use chakra, his skin much the same. My true pride in my jail comes from the repeated attacks from the Uchiha. I have studied their eyes, and given him just their one trait. Yes, he can copy any jutsu, and with the sacrifice of all others even raw manipulation of that energy. But he will still have to work for those skills even with the knowledge of how to do them. I may be a demon, but I will not cheat. Just as I have worked for my power, so must this boy. They destroyed his hearing, so I made it better. They gave him so much brain damage that I altered it to be near genius levels. If they knew what I was doing, none gave any inclination, and that was fine with me, for they will truly reap what they have sown from these attacks one day, that I swear. The most amusing, however, is the dormant bloodline I am toying with now. This was from his mother. How do I know this? I was once within her, though under a much different seal. Now I will work on bringing this to the front, the Kochiku bloodline, dense or heavy chakra. Such a fun little toy, and I will enjoy watching him master it. After all, it will be the means for my resurrection and release from this seal. Think of it as his payment for my renovations. Just a few more years of dealing with this, and I will meet with the boy. Set him on the path of being a chakra wielder, one of these shinobi. That will be all I need to do. After that I will leave it to him to honor my deal. 3 years later, Naruto. It was during the festival, and as always he was told to stay inside. He just didn't find it fair that he couldn't go on his birthday. Sure, the villagers tried to hurt him, but they couldn't do much to him anymore. He didn't know why, but he was happy about that. It wasn't hard for him to figure out what they were calling him, and wonder about it. But being only 6 had a detriment on his knowledge. He had taught himself to read and write, and understand several things like money. Since he was now living in an apartment that the old man had given him. Screw it. I am going, he said to no one, as he walked out of his new apartment, locking the door and took off through the village. He wandered the stalls and watched the giant plushy dolls of the Yondaime hanging from the game booths. It was all fine until he was truly spotted by a group of drunken villagers, though this night would be different somehow. Shouting started, "Kill the demon, finish what the Yondaime started," or, "Get away from me," repeated by different voices and genders. He did what he had to do, and that was run. The mob formed and chased him through the streets. Objects and weapons were flung at him, some cutting into him, other just bashing into his back or his head. He was getting away from them as he could move through the crowd much easier due to his smaller size, and the few, modifications to him over time. Until he ran into a person who just looked down at him. "How dare such a disgusting creature touch me?" the man said, as Naruto looked up to see the black hair, and the funny red eyes that he somehow knew to be the full Sharingan. The gestures of the mon's hands and fingers caused his eyes to tingle before he watched a fireball collide against him. The pain of the fire was enough to cause him to shriek out in pain. Before he felt the cold sensation of water covering him, and the screams of other people dying around him. The gentle arms picking him up and the motions of moving very fast were the last things to pass through the boy's mind before he faded to nothingness. Mindscape. "Boy, come before me." A voice echoed around him as he woke up in a strange tunnel. Funny, he thought, as he felt no pain but could now see a light glowing and flickering towards one end of the tunnel. "Come to me and I will help you." The voice called again. The low rumble and strongly comforting tone lulled at him as his feet carried him towards the glow and the presence of the voice. Soon he entered a room, with row of bars on one end. Behind the bars sat a large glowing being that his mind quickly came up with a name. Kyubi. The boy said out loud, as he studied the demon that sat on the other side of the cell. Obviously very much alive considering he was told the demon died. Demon, filth, disgusting, hell spawn. All the names he had ever been called rattled through his thoughts. "You're dead." The demon laughed. "Yes and no." The kitsune spoke as it lowered its massive head to eye level of the boy. "I have lived, well, been trapped here for 6 years. Thanks to your 4th Hokage. He sealed me inside of you. It was the only way to defeat me." The fox spoke matter-of-factly, which caused Naruto to ponder this as the demon continued. "In that time, I have kept you alive, healed you every time they tried to hurt you. Then I decided to try and prevent that. I made you stronger, faster, smarter. For every injury I made you whole and improved you when I did so." Naruto seemed to falter as he stood there listening to the demon, as he fell on his ass, telling him that he has been helping him. Leave it to him to be the only good guy out of this. Naruto thought. To which the Kyubi started to chuckle. "You have not figured it out, but we are within the seal in your mind. I can hear your thoughts." He laughed again, this time slightly more evil. "But we don't have much time, so I will make this short. You are going to start learning how to be one of those ninja. I don't care how you do it, but you will. But first you need to learn to control your chakra, as you have much more than nearly everyone in this pathetic village. Because of this seal you are absorbing mine into your own." The fox paused, as one of his tails dimmed considerably. "I have used too much power to keep us alive, now it is your turn to work on that. I will need to rest to deal with the drain of the seal, so that I can recover most of my power." The fox sighed. "My chakra will still heal you, but that is it. I have done all I can for now, and in time you will find a way to repay my kindness. Now do not mention me to anyone until I awaken again, and do your best to become a true shinobi. None of that flashy crap, use my gifts wisely. Now you must return to them. I sense the 2 old ones are starting to worry." With that he flung a tail past the bars and pushed Naruto down the tunnel. With a yawn he curled up into himself and started to sleep. Real-world Hokage's office. Two older men were sitting in the room discussing many things, all of which seemed to revolve around the healing yet still unconscious blonde. He's 6 now, sensei. If we start now he will be ready for the academy in a few years. Even if we can't use his father, his mother still had a clan and many things of her own to pass on to him. The heavy-looking man, which was none other than Jiraiya of the Sannin. The oldest of the two, the third Hokage sighed. Jiraiya, I know, but I will not let him learn those skills until he is a genin. There is no changing my mind. Sarutobi held up his hand to forestall his once student from talking. However, we can start him to train on his own in a few areas if he wants to. The old man sighed, the weight of his job and burden of his age slowly creeping up on him. That's all well and fine, but what are the basics going to do the next time he's attacked like this? Jiraiya spat out. He wished he could have taken the boy with him, but his duties and the damned council kept him from doing so. At least let him study the basics for her taijutsu and sealing. He practically begged. It will work on his focus, speed and concentration. As well give him a way to defend himself. Sarutobi sagged in his seat. With a sigh he realized he was still trying so hard to give the boy a normal life and failing. When he waked up, we can ask him if he wants to start learning. If he says no, we will drop this matter. If he decides that he wants to do this, then I will allow him to study only the taijutsu and sealing along with the basics. Now, let's get him a change of clothes and some food. With that said, the two men walked from the office to do just that, leaving what they assumed to be a sleeping child on the couch. Naruto was stunned with dealing with the realization that the demon was sealed inside him to comment on what they were saying. Like hell, I won't be a ninja. Even he wants me to be one. He opened his eyes, blinking a few times as he sat up stiffly to look around the room. The blonde had spent many days in here either recovering or just talking with the old man. But today he noticed something different. That shelf was never there before. He said out loud as he got up and walked over to the shelf that revealed to be holding a rather large scroll. Looking around, he picked it up and opened it. The forbidden scroll of Konohagakure. Within are jutsu deemed too dangerous for your average shinobi. He paused reading that line, and smiled. I won't be average, I will be the best. With or without their help. He thought, knowing that only the fox had truly helped him, even if it seemed just for his own plans. He looked back to the scroll and kept reading. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. A ranked jutsu created a corporeal clone that can interact with the physical environment as well as use the limited chakra supplied to it. Can be used for training techniques of a chakra-based nature. Also for observation, spying and studying. As any knowledge the clone gains will be returned to the user once the clone is dispelled. Warning: the clone splits the chakra between user and clone, and the return of knowledge may cause severe damage to the user if not regulated carefully. Naruto thought this would be a good thing, seeing as what the Kyuubi had told him. So he looked over the seals to create the clone and memorized them. Before he started to return the scroll to its place, the next one caught his attention. Chakra control threads. Commonly referred to as chakra strings, most shinobi use these to guide weapons or collect falling items. That is the lesser focus of this skill. Control threads, when used at their true strength, are capable of taking over another being or person's body. This is through pushing the chakra into the target. Also, with enough focus, these threads may also be used as a ninja wire or such. The options are limited to the imagination of the user. Warning: using such a technique on a living being could result in chakra depletion or overflow. As the combating energies will duel until one is left or the one with better control stabilizes the connection or cuts it off. This would definitely be something he could use, and he read further on it, not seeing hand signs but a complex description on how to create them. He noted that it was one of those raw skills. Which would be why it needs so much control. But he shrugged and committed it to memory, this time rolling it up and placing it back. He scurried off to the couch just as the doors opened. The Hokage and Jiraiya returned with a change of clothes, both in color and composition, as well as food. "Ah, Naruto, you're awake," Sarutobi said as he settled the tray with food on the couch. "Now I am very upset with you because you went out after I told you to stay inside tonight." "Yay, but Oji-chan, it's my birthday. I don't see why I have to stay inside, even if I know why now," Naruto said as he started eating the food. Ramen had nothing on real food, but that's all he could afford. "I can understand that you want to enjoy your birthday, my boy. But now I have to ask you something," the Hokage said, eyeing Jiraiya carefully. "You don't have to do this, but would you like to become a ninja one day?" Naruto slurped down his food quickly. "Hell yeah, old man." Jiraiya started to laugh as he looked at the expression on Naruto and his sensei's face. It was almost too poetic. Since this was after all his and her son, there was no way he wouldn't want to be a ninja, and he would be a damn fine one on his own. But with a little push and nudge from the Sannin himself, he could be great. "Are you sure?" Sarutobi asked, as he watched the boy nod. "Then you will have to work hard and study what Jiraiya and I give you. Since you will have 3 years before you can start at the academy, you will have to learn this on your own," he said as he pulled out several scrolls from his desk. "These will be what I will give you to study. Nothing special, but what is expected of any shinobi to know. Chakra control exercises, shinobi codes and conduct, and physical and some weapons training." He laid those down next to the now empty tray of food. "The last one I will give you is a taijutsu, or an unarmed fighting style. This belonged to your mother. I don't know what it is, but if you put some of your blood on this seal, it will open up for you." He sighed, pointing to the seal on it, and placed it next to the others. Naruto nodded, and waited since he knew he would be getting something on seals. He smiled like a happy little fox though throughout all of this, just acting amazed. "This is awesome. I am going to be the best ninja out there. Even better than you, Gigi." The two older men looked at each other and shared a small smile, as they both remembered another blonde not much older than Naruto saying the exact same thing to them many years ago. "The last thing that you will learn is something Jiraiya-kun here wants you to learn, so he can take you to your place and explain it along with any other questions you have." Naruto's apartment. The two people sitting there had been there for several hours since they left the Hokage's office. Jiraiya had been explaining the physical exercises that the boy needed to do along with how the chakra weights worked. Then he gave him a rather large scroll, with Fuinjutsu on it. "This is pretty much everything I know about seals and sealing. Just go through each level of the scrolls and take you time learning it. Nothing is worse than a seal gone bad, trust me," he said. "Alright. Yawn, I'll start tomorrow. Am too tired now. And thanks for the new clothes. Just wish they were orange." Not really, but he doesn't need to know that, he thought. Sure, after looking over everything they had given him, except the taijutsu scroll, it would take him 3 years probably just to get everything started. Well, until I can start using that cage bunshin. That he knew would be probably one of his most guarded secrets for now. Since having figured that if it was in that scroll, no one but the Hokage and whoever he said could learn it should. "Good Gaki, I'll be back in 3 years to check up on what you learned. Maybe I'll teach you a few things special when I get back if you impress me enough." He stood up, stretching before he left. "Remember, always keep those weights on unless you are complete outclassed or are going to really loose." He pulled up the sleeve on his coat, revealing his own set. "Haven't had to take mine off in years. Hee." Before he jumped out the window, leaving Naruto alone in his apartment. Next day, the blonde boy was found looking over the taijutsu scroll, and had a grin that would put a fox to shame. "This style will be awesome, but I have to change my exercises to what the scroll says," he thought as he noted the major difference between what Jiraiya had set up for him and what the scroll wanted. The major difference was Jiraiya's was to build a lot of muscle, whereas the scroll wanted muscle, speed and flexibility to be evenly matched. Which too much muscle and you lose out on the other two. So he would work hard on what was in this scroll. Setting that aside, he read through the shiobi codes and conduct scroll, several hours in fact, but he committed it to memory. This was of course after taking out much that seemed to contradict itself, but still he retained that knowledge. It was when he did this he knew one of the changes the fox had done, and didn't mind that a bit. He could remember anything he studied like he was looking at it. He would set that aside and reread it a few times afterwards just to make sure. But his two biggest obstacles now would be the exercise and the chakra control. Sealing could wait now that he knew it would be easy to learn, well for him since he could just memorize it. So he unrolled the scroll on chakra control, and read the rather dry material about what chakra is, why we use it, what could go wrong. All of which seemed to be interesting but so poorly written that it would make most kids fall asleep. Tier 1 Academy, Low Genin. Leaf Balance. Kunai Balance. Senbon Balance. Tier 2 Chunin, Junin. Tree Walking. Water Walking. Air Pads. Tier 3 Medic Level. Pooling. Shaping. Converting. Elemental Chunin, Junin. Leaf. See specific element for further focus. He read the list, and noticed seal under each one. So he touched the first one, and felt a tug at his chakra that seemed to cause the seal to release the notes on the exercise. Seems I have to have the control level to unlock the next one. He laughed. The old man was smart since he would have probably tried the hardest one first. He set himself to working on these, making a note that once he got to the water walking he would use the cage bunshin. 1 year later, sitting in the middle of the floor, our blonde shinobi in pre-training was focusing his chakra. If you looked closer you could see several needles were standing straight up on his skin in places. More slowly rose to stick straight out as well. He was starting to look like a shiny porcupine. The slight shimmer of blue coating all the needles the only sign that they weren't actually stuck into his flesh. Before he floated one off at a time, a nearly invisible thread of chakra connected to each one. He had started using the chakra threads once he finished the first level of the exercises. He wanted to master it and would only get better control of his chakra, and this jutsu the more he used it. It also seemed to help to have more than one thing to focus his chakra on. Especially after he found out roughly how much he had, though there was more each day. With the study of Fuinjutsu he had learned quite a few seals and methods along with it. The fact that he just read the scroll a day from it, with spending an hour after reviewing everything he had read to that point he was progressing quite a lot faster than anyone would ever know. That was 3 hours of his day, another 2 were spent on writing and drawing to perfect the needed penmanship for sealing. 3 hours on physical training, and another 3 on chakra control. Mix in eating and a little recreational time, and that had been Naruto's days since he started down this path. Eventually he removed the last of the needles with a smile. Yes. Tier 1 complete. He gave a smile, for himself, hoping that when the fox wakes up he would be impressed. It was rather sad that his only friend seemed to be the demon, but for now he was too focused on training and studying to be bothered by the lack of people. He was sure when he started the academy in 2 years that he would change that. Opening the next level on the scroll, he firmly decided that he would stay training inside for now. He could do this on the walls and ceiling. He looked at the scroll and got an idea, which he spoke out loud to no one. Maybe if I master the tree walking, and then have to do that while I redo tier 1, that would speed up things since I would have to split my control between more things. He smiled. This was so going to be worth it. Another year gone by. Now at 8 years old, Naruto was starting to show the fruits of all of his physical training, as he stood shirtless in a run-down training field long forgotten on the outskirts of the village. The toned muscle rippled with pure sinew. Unlike what Jiraiya had planned for him, he was the opposite, sleek and slender with a slight curvature that could be associated with a female. He stood almost 5 feet tall now, his blonde hair grown longer and held back in a single band, his bangs falling to frame his face. The last vestiges of baby fat still clung to his cheeks. He lowered his body into the now familiar stance and flowed through the katas. Following the forms of the Uzukan style, his sinewed body, rippling like a predatory feline, each move no energy wasted. Naruto had taken to doubling his training 6 months ago when the Uchiha clan had been slaughtered, or in his opinion put down like the rabid animals they were. True, he didn't know the full details, nor did anyone, but after all of his experiences there was only one that he had even liked. That just happened to be the one who killed nearly all of them, Itachi. He had been his rescuer many times from his own clan. That was a driving reason to get better, but all of this was under the radar of the village and anyone that knew him. Otherwise he was still the loud, brash and clueless blonde. It worked well for him, that mask, as it let him listen in or sit and watch others train. He had learned not too long ago that he could copy any jutsu he saw, though not like the Uchiha that would instantly use it. Rather, he would take his time to study the techniques, learn them. Just like anything he didn't take it for granted. Every bonus to being a shinobi, he would only work harder because of it. His thoughts followed this pattern as his body followed the fluid motions of the style, while the set of clones he created were working on the air pads technique. That one allowed a shinobi to jump on air, or shift himself across spaces. From what he had learned, not many even bothered with it, instead they would just push chakra into their bodies to move them. Even most medics skipped that step and went on to higher levels. But if one thing Naruto was, it was a perfectionist. The blonde prodigy looked over to another set of clones that were working on a few, inventive, seals. Something he had noticed in a few places, and even took from the design of his own seal. He was going to test the full set on himself, though if it worked he would offer the base seal to a clan, maybe for a favor or some money. The full array would split his reserves in half, allowing for the creation of 2 sets of reserves that would be the same size as his would be now. With the addition of the second seal to the array, it would create a duplicate of his pathways for the other store of chakra to flow. He hoped to have the kinks worked out before he started the academy. The added bonus of the array, however, was that only his primary reserves would receive the Kyuubi's chakra while the other would be his purely. It would slow down the rate of conversion. A small gift for his savior. Finishing his physical training, sweat coursing over his skin, he sat down to rest. Pulling out the last of the scrolls he had for sealing, and decided to memorize that one. Which according to the Sannin would put the boy on his level of knowledge if not practice. That was what Naruto was planning on next, crafting seals constantly, expounding upon them, altering them, making new ones. As that was the only way to get better from this point on. The sun was lowering on the horizon. As he finished with the scroll, this would leave him with too much time on his hands. But what else could he study without being noticed? Between just control exercises and taijutsu he would have plenty of time. Now thanks to his clones he had even more time, but what to study? Meditating, he thought over the primary skills of shinobi. Ninjutsu, genjutsu, taijutsu, kenjutsu, these were the 4 main areas of study. Yet, there was fuinjutsu, something called puppetry, medic jutsu, and other clan-specific styles. His train of thought was broken, when he heard a keening noise. Opening his eyes he found a silver ball of fluff stumbling towards him. The distinct color of blood dripping from and clinging to its fur. He got up slowly and approached the animal. "It's all right, I'm not going to hurt you," he said softly, as he closed in of the small wounded thing. Once he picked it up gently, he noticed it was a fox kit, with bite wounds. The only thing in his thoughts was that it was alone and would die if he left it. That was his resolve. He was sure he could nurse the kit to health, maybe raise it and train it to fight with him. Just like the Inuzuka do with their dogs. Which meant trying to figure out how they do it. But first he needed to get him some help, and he wasn't qualified to do so. Leaving his clones there with the order, "When you are done, dispel but one of you take everything back to the apartment." As he took off for the Inuzuka compound and the only vet in the village. Naruto walked in with the silver kit. "Excuse me. I need some help," he asked to the empty office. Soon a young girl came in, maybe around 14. "What do you need? I'm Hana, by the way," the girl said. 3 nin dogs followed behind her. Naruto sat the kid on the counter. "I found him while I was practicing." I don't know what happened to him. Other than it looked like he was bitten and he was lost. I don't want him to die. He said. The visible yet unshed tears in his eyes were proof that he felt a connection to the assumed orphan fox. Hannah looked at the silver fluff ball, as she listened. Those soon ran over and started checking the animal. She nodded and whispered things to herself before she flashed an off-color green energy to her hands and started running them over the kit. I healed most of his wounds, but I am going to give you some antibiotics and supplement pills. They are usually only for our dogs. But they should work just the same without any real side effects. Other than he might end up bigger than normal. She kind of laughed, at the relieved look in Naruto's eyes. Bring him by again when you run out of the pills. I want to do a checkup on him and also to see what the effects of the pills on him are. Naruto nodded. Thank you, I wish I had the money. He was stopped. It's a defenseless animal. I'll just consider studying him as payment. I am training to be a veterinarian, so this is worth it to me. Plus it helps out a sweetheart like you. She said with a smile. Smiling, he gathered up the kit. Shiruba. He looked from the kit to Hannah. I think that's what his name will be. Shiruba. I think it suits him. Especially if he keeps that coat when he gets older. She smiled, and honestly couldn't see why anyone in the village hated this kid. Just remember, I am only here on the weekends by myself. But you should have enough here to last a month. 6 months later, Naruto and Shiruba were sitting in his apartment. Well, Shiruba was laying down in his basket as the blonde was being covered in lines and glyphs of the experimental array. The last parts were being gone over to ensure that both sets of seals were correct. Before the last clone dispelled, "Boss, you're good to go. Just now it might hurt. A lot." He knew that already, but it seemed his shadow clones took on a personality of their own sometimes. Placing his hands on the activation seal, he fused it with his chakra, all the symbols and lines glowing bright blue, before they seeped into his skin. That's when the burning and aching came, as his pathways were split, enlarged, and healed, just as his reserves were replicated in a mirror image of their size and strength but left half full in each one. The original having a more purple color due to the Kyuubi's chakra merging, while the other was a pure dark blue. All this happened in moments, and he could see it all clearly before his eyes snapped open as the last of the seal sunk beneath his skin to vanish from sight. Well, he groaned out, causing Shiruba to look at him. That worked better than I thought, though. No chakra usage till tomorrow. Besides, it's time for you to visit Hannah Ne-chan. The fox yipped and ran over to Naruto. You know, I think you like her more than me. He laughed as the kid licked him. The two took off through the back roads of the village, avoiding everyone they could to arrive at Hannah's office. Hannah, Shiruba and I are here. He said loud enough for the back room to hear. Sure enough, Hannah's triplet of nin dogs came out and barked before they disappeared to drag her out. Well, I see you're back. She said with a smile. Naruto placing Shiruba on the counter for her to look over. She flashed the seals for a diagnostic jutsu and scanned him a few times and brought out her scroll that she kept on him. Well, he's growing faster than average, which would be the pills, but it looks like he's around you quite a bit while you are using chakra. She stated, more than questioned, as Naruto nodded his head. He learned not to interrupt her, as she had a hard right hook. I didn't think this would happen, but he's turning into a nin fox. She laughed a little but was more intrigued. Well, you're going to have to start focusing chakra into him to finish the joining between you. I can't say much more about it, but trust me, it will help. Just make sure to use as much chakra as you can. Not realizing exactly who she was talking to. But focus on the two of you becoming one, when you do it. She handed him 3 more pills. Give him 1 a week. After the last week they will be done, so will the joining. She winked at him mischievously. Bring him back by then so I can see how it worked out. End of 3 weeks. This would be the last day, that Hannah had said. The last 3 weeks outside of his clone's training, Naruto had sat with Shiruba in his lap, slowly pouring his chakra into the fox until he passed out every day. Which he didn't know if it was the right thing to do, but Hannah said as much as he could. which happened to be in the end enough to power a small village for a few months. He smiled, as he let the energy flow, all of it both reserves, which meant the kid was getting his own healthy dose of the Kyuubi's chakra. He noticed it was evident as the kid gained more size and muscle like his own. They didn't do anything but this for 3 weeks. Well, this, eat, bath, and sleep. But after today he could take him to see Hannah and find out the results of everything she had him mysteriously doing. Though that would wait as the exhaustion took hold over him and the kid, getting so much energy pushed into him made him tired too as his body was shifting quickly. Both slipped into a deep slumber, as dark blue chakra surrounded them both before seeping into them. The next day Naruto woke up to the yips of the fox, Hana-chan let's go, which caused him to quirk a brow as he looked at the fox that was now easily the size of a fully grown fox. Which only meant he was going to be rather huge. Shiruba, calm down, let's eat and let me take a shower first. He told the kid as the silver fox trotted over to him, sure thing too san, as he nuzzled Naruto's leg. Okay, I guess she wasn't kidding that I would understand him. But Dad, shaking his head, he made a quick breakfast and then took a shower. Later that day they stood in Hannah's office with her scanning him as was now normal and usual, Hana-chan's thinking too hard. Which caused Naruto to snicker and Hannah to look at him funny. What? Well, Shiruba said you're thinking too hard. He answered her, which got her to look at him surprised, then she started to smile brightly. Really, you understand him that well? She started making notes in her scroll. How long each day did you feed him chakra? Naruto looked at her a little weird but answered, outside of sleeping, eating or showering the entire time for the 3 weeks. Her jaw dropped, as she walked over to him and scanned him with the medical jutsu, which caused her eyes to grow several sizes larger. Your reserves are huge, you mean you drained them every day? He nodded, not seeing the issue. Seriously, till you passed out every day? He nodded again, and she took off to her scroll and began writing quickly. Why is that so important? Naruto was curious, and when that was set off there really wasn't a stopping him. Well, really it wouldn't be, but you are about 3 years ahead with the connection between you two than any of my family at your age. She paused. Well, that, and he managed to keep a fairly large portion of that chakra as well as adapted his body to it. If you two managed to figure out a way for him to use that chakra and control it, then you could learn or create techniques to use together. You might have just started a rival clan if you breed him at some point. Naruto laughed. I don't think I want any grandchildren, I'm not old enough. Hannah started laughing. Why do you say that? Well, he calls me too san. He jaw hung open for a minute before she snapped it shut, and scribbled some notes down. That might explain the bond forging so quickly. But yay. After today you guys will have to be on your own and I never helped with anything other than getting him healthy, alright? She asked nervously, as he dogs seemed to talk to her in their own language. Naruto figured they were getting close to getting caught, and if what he thought she was trying to do was what it was, then she was very, very close to giving out a clan secret or more. I think I understand, but I can still bring him in for checkups or if he gets injured, right? Oh yay, for that, no problem. Visit fees will be 50 each time, but if you need treatments or anything it'll be that, and depends on what else. She winked at him to let him know it wasn't what she wanted, but it's the best they could do. As her dogs let her know that her mother was questioning where some of their special pills were, as Hannah's younger brother, Kiba, was to start the bonding with his companion. Well, I guess I will see you every couple of months if we're lucky. Naruto said, though he felt a little sad that he had a sort of friend now that he couldn't see much of without causing problems. A few months later. Alright Shiruba, I'm going to give you the same seals I did so that you can be like me, alright? Naruto asked as he was preparing his ink and brushes for the task, as he was drawing them on paper to place that way since fur didn't go well for making intricate lines and symbols. Sure, and then I can do more of those exercise things, right? Like maybe start climbing trees. Shiruba yipped, which made Naruto laugh a little. Maybe part of my personality went with the chakra. Sure thing, kid. but remember no chakra for a day after we do this alright, plus it's going to hurt. The fox nodded his head and laid on the floor until it was time. That turned out to be a few more hours as Naruto tweaked the places in the seal to work better for the kid, before he called him over and placed the paper array over the fox and activated it. In fascination he watched as the seal transferred from the paper to his companion, sinking into the fur to the skin, all the while he watched the chakra bleed out and warp around the seals. This must have been what he looked like, as his own seals happened. What intrigued him was the Shiruba had nearly the same dark blue chakra he did, just what appeared to be flecks of silver floated in his where in Naruto's it was flecks of red. Slipping the kid a sedative after it was all done, so that he would rest. Naruto started looking over some scrolls, for several lower-level jutsu. He had picked one for each element to study, since he was now on the medic level of his control, the kid not far behind. He wanted to find his element, so he figured trying one of each and seeing which was hardest and which was easiest would be a good clue. As he studied them, he thought about the training he and Shiruba had been doing. The kid was picking up the control rather easy, and was finding the perfect places in the taijutsu to fit in. He even learned the chakra attacks for the style. Uzuken was similar to the style of the Hyuga, with pushing chakra into the opponent. However, the Hyuga aim for the organs and Tenketsu to shut down the chakra. The Uzuken forces the pathways wider, breaching them, as well as muscles and joints. Shiruba, with some thoughts from Naruto, had randomly figured out how to do the attacks with his muzzle, paws and tail. Along with being able to infuse the tail with chakra for strikes, he had learned simple raw manipulation, which gave Naruto the idea of some tricks that didn't use hand seals, but those would take time to figure out. Needless to say, he would, and then the Kitsune duo would definitely have a few tricks up their sleeves. The day before Academy, Naruto had received a message from the Hokage to meet him and Jiraiya in his office today. So with all the scrolls, since he made copies, and Shiruba, they ran to the tower and up to the old man's office. "We're here, Gigi," Naruto said as he popped through the door. Sadly, none of the people in the tower spotted him, since that day 3 years ago he had been wearing dark gray and blues. The Hokage looked up from his desk to see Naruto looking far different than the last time he had seen him. But he reminded himself that 3 years training with all of that plus Jiraiya's workouts would do that. Though it was the "we" part that had him confused, until he saw the silver fox sitting next to Naruto's left side. "Naruto, where and when did you get that?" "Oh, I rescued Shiruba almost a year ago, he's my nin fox." Which he made a small gesture, to which Shiruba ran up the wall and jumped off to land on his shoulder. "We've been training forever and he's worked into my taijutsu style." The blonde flashed his fox-like smile, and laughed a little. This was the point that Jiraiya hopped through the window. "Well, I see the Gakis here too, so I take it that it's that time." The Sannin said as if it were no problem at all. The Hokage nodded. "Yes, it is." Turning to Naruto, "Now we wanted to see how much you have learned and if there was anything you wanted to focus more on." Naruto smiled, as he hadn't planned on telling about the chakra thread or the cage bunshin, as both were beyond useful, seeing as he could control a crap ton of things with his chakra threads, thanks to in part had he had practiced to learn them with Senbon. "Well, I can do the tree and water walking now, though I am done with the few Ainjutsu scrolls Jiraiya-sama left me." Jiraiya's jaw dropped in disbelief. The Hokage, on the other hand, was oblivious to exactly what that meant. "I also learned all the academy level jutsu needed. Also, I've learned 1D rank for each element," he smiled, "and Shiruba has learned that to project chakra and infuse parts of his body with it, and he's up to the tree climbing." Jiraiya was seriously thinking the kid had only finished one scroll, not all of it, considering how much he said he could do. "What's the most complicated seal you can make, Gaki?" "Oh, that would probably be mine, the Uzumaki Fuinjutsu, double chakra vortex." He smiled, and Jiraiya just nodded, thinking the kid was full of himself. "Really? Let me see it." To which Naruto pulled out a small scroll, with the seal array that created the secondary reserve. He left of the extra coils as most people had no reason to have another set. He just wanted one to see if he could do so. But that proved to have an interesting side effect. One-handed seals, or the fact that he could literally use two different chakra-based attacks with different focus. But to the seal he handed Jiraiya. The man looked at the scroll before he opened it, seeing it all in the kid's handwriting, the seal, the description and even the theory and purpose behind having to use it. He was impressed and a bit flabbergasted that the boy was more of a genius with sealing than his father. Kid, you know what this seal could do? Yeah, I'm using it already, but I figure someone that had a chakra disease, or maybe has to give a portion of their chakra constantly for a jutsu or a bloodline, it might be useful. He didn't notice the Sanin's look when he said he was already using it. Gaki, why? Your reserves were already bigger than most kids your age. The Sanin questioned. Well, he lied, I did it because I found the dead demon seal on my stomach, and the fact that it's constantly leaking into my reserves, it made control impossible. So I trained only one set and left the part it was leaking into alone to filter into my trained reserves. This was where the Hokage started understanding what was going on. Naruto, how long have you know about the seal? Oh, since about 2 weeks into studying chakra control, then what it was and what it did took about another year. He sighed, plus putting that together with the way the village treats me, add in which demon was around this village on my birthday, and well, I would say that I hold, and am stealing chakra from the Kyuubi no Kitsune. He said with a small bit of venom in his voice. The two men looked between each other and started to say something. Don't bother, it's over with and I can't change anything, neither can you. Besides, I really don't care. There are people that care for me and that's enough. He smiled sadly. But since I start classes tomorrow, I need to have Shiruba registered as my companion. Plus I wouldn't mind maybe learning something new. Here he looked at the Sanin, as he remembered his promise. The Sanin took in the appearance of the fox in Naruto. Not many of the older generation would like him working with one, which just made it all the better. Idiots. Well, given the Uzumakis being seal masters, maybe it was a bloodline that they picked it up so quickly. But now he was tasked with agreeing with the boy. After all, he did promise to teach him something cool if he surprised him. Well, there's a few things I could teach you, but I'll have to wait on most of them until you get older. Jiraiya fished in his pocket for a slip of paper, and handed the blank square to Naruto. Now, channel your chakra into the paper. It'll determine your affinity. Naruto took the paper and pushed a bit of his chakra into the paper. At first nothing seemed to happen, until the edges started to drip with water that soon soaked the entire paper, before it sliced down the middle, leaving small crystals along the cut that spread to cover the page. Naruto figured easily that it was wind and water, but the crystals weren't cold like ice, nor did it even look like ice. He turned his blue eyes from the paper to the two older men that he had respected the most out of the village, Futen, Suiten and Shoten. The Hokage smiled a knowing smile. You are correct on the first two, and I am sure Jiraiya would agree with you, but knowing your mother's bloodline, it's actually Kochiku, our heavy chakra, that allowed that to happen. Getting looks of curiosity and unbelieving from the other two, he continued. It's similar to the crystal release, in the fact that you can form your chakra into a practically solid state, and seeing how the other elements appeared, you have already reached the second level of your bloodline, which condenses your chakra naturally, making it require less to create jutsu. If you put in as much of your chakra as others to make them, they would either be overpowered or in some instances like clones, they would be more doppelgangers than clones. The blonde was surprised by this, as he had been using his chakra like others and hadn't noticed a difference like that. But to be honest with himself, he had yet to compare them to others. So I have outrageously large reserves and barely have to use chakra now. So it just means all my jutsu will be kick. The two older men laughed, seeing the boy in front of them, unaware of what he already knew. Yes. But unfortunately we don't have anything further on what your bloodline is, just what your mother had told me while she was still alive. Sarutobi said. Now in the scroll I gave you, there was mention of elemental exercises, dealing with leaves. He saw the boy nod. Now to practice this you need to make the leaf cut in half cleanly like the paper, and also work on making the leaf become covered in water. Jiraiya took the time they were talking to reach into his pack and pull out a couple of scrolls. These are some water and wind jutsu that I have picked up on my trips. I can't use them that well seeing as I'm earth and fire. He tossed them to the boy. They are ranked in the scrolls and some history for the technique and the way I have heard or seen them used. Naruto smiled as he looked to Shiruba. I'm going to learn them too. Right to San. To which he just smiled and reached down to pet the fox. So with my reserves and as far as I have gotten on my control exercises, C-rank jutsu would still be the highest I could manage, right? To which the Hokage smiled, seeing that Naruto was showing some sense even if he was still in their minds a hyperactive child that had a severe learning streak. Yes, though never underestimate the lower level jutsu. If he moves as quickly through this training I might be able to retire sooner, he chuckled. Just take your time learning them. Now we come to the one of the bigger reasons you are here. He sighed, knowing that his wishes and that of the boy's father were all but not seen. You are aware of how other people have treated you, because of your seal. This will be even more so among many of the students even if they don't know the reason, as well as possibly your instructors. Jiraiya took over for his sensei. What he means is Gaki, they will try and teach you things wrong, probably not offer to help you, and on your tests they will either give you the wrong ones or make them harder. He looked to his mentor, so we can do a few things different from here before you start. One, we either let you go as you are, and have you come here once a month to take the exams and to evaluate your skills to replace the ones in the academy, use a technique to make you look different and let you go as an orphan, or you can go and we will not interfere and you will just have to work harder on your own to deal with them. Naruto looked at his fox, knowing he wasn't going to leave him alone and that unlike others the fox was growing with him in intelligence and would soon be learning how to use his own chakra for more than training control. Which gave him a very good idea for two seals to work on. I think Shiruba and I will just tough it out. Besides Gigi, that book you gave me said one of the strongest skills is deception, and the strongest tool is my mind. He spoke as he quoted a few parts of the Shinobi Guide. I would just need to be able to get into the library without being tossed out. He grumbled, since he was never let in there and he never tried to force his way in either. The Hokage smiled sadly. Then when you need to use a library to study you may use mine. I'm sure it will be better in the end. Plus myself or Asuma will be able to help you when we are around, especially since he's a wind user like yourself. Well, that's settled, but you mentioned another reason that you wanted me here too. Naruto asked and the fox yipped in agreement. Well, that stems from the last part. We suspect one of the instructors that you will have of being more than just resentful towards you. We wanted you to keep an eye on them, and let us know what they are doing. We won't tell you which one, so you will really have to work on observing them if nothing else during class. He hated doing this, but the boy here was the only one he would trust with doing this. You could pass outright this year, holding his hand up, however this will be a mission I am giving you. I want you to stay in the academy for 4 years, which means you will have to fail the graduation exam twice. He watched Naruto as he seemed to think it over. Naruto was thinking about it all, and if he played dead last for that long he would wind up paired with another prodigy, or someone who forced themselves to be one. He was also going to end up being a year older than his teammates, since he was starting early and would be finishing later. I'll do it as long as you promise that I will not be put on the Uchiha's team, no matter the ranking in the class or request of the sensei. That took the Hokage aback as he would have liked him to end up with Sasuke, and Kakashi wouldn't like this since that was his concession to teaching the Uchiha heir. Why do you say that? Naruto laughed bitterly. Most of the attacks on me were done by Uchiha. Secondly, I don't want all my skills taken by their piece of crap eyes. Jiraiya held back his laugh, as the blonde summed up his thoughts on the council's decision to coddle the Uchiha. Whereas Sarutobi sighed, seeing that this was going to be a major headache. Especially knowing Naruto was more advanced and Kakashi would be late and be forced to favor the Uchiha. It just wouldn't end well. I will try my best, but if you do end up placed that way, is there something else that you would want? Naruto looked at his hands for a moment. Register and have Shiruba treated like an Inuzuka nin dog before I leave. He looked to his kit, and smiled before he looked between Jiraiya and the old man, and I'll think of something for if when that happens. Which mollified the Hokage, as he knew it was going to happen. That I can do, and since you accept the mission, it will be a classified C rank long term. Payments will be once a month, for you and Shiruba. Most people didn't know the small fact that Inuzuka dogs were paid as well for being ninja, which made them one of the richest clans, though they never showed that or most doubted that they even knew that themselves. After their discussion they talked a little more on how Naruto had been, as they filled out the paperwork for Shiruba to be a nin kitsune. Which was the blonde's idea since kitsune were able to use chakra and foxes couldn't. If the legends were true, which the Biju were, it would mean that his companion would soon have another tail. He also had Shiruba tested for any affinities, which they though was strange just to be proven wrong, as Shiruba showed to have Raiden and Suiten as his elements. Which they gave Naruto a scroll on Raiden, just so he could understand the process since it could kill his companion. But they soon left, leaving just the Hokage and Jiraiya sitting in the office, in silence for a time. Sensei, that kid reminds me so much of both of them, it's a little creepy. I mean, 1 minute he's as serious as his mother, the next he's as carefree and curious as his father. Add in there hasn't been hide nor hair of a flux from the demon, I'm starting to wonder if it's even alive in that seal. He spoke after pulling the key scroll from a summoned toad, and looked over the design. This shows he's still getting the fox's chakra, but it's not changed in almost 4 years, he murmured, pointing to the flow seal on the array. It's like he's found a way to not draw on any more of the fox's chakra. Instead, just using his own over and over again. He paused and pulled out the scroll of the reserve split array that Naruto had made, and looked it over. That boy, he only lets the fox's chakra into one of his reserves, draining the untainted one, which still causes both to grow larger since they are still connected. He points to a small seal that filters. This lets him pull his own chakra from the other side to fill his empty one, but leaves the demon chakra, which slows down the absorption rate. The two older men looked at each other in a moment of rare insight and understanding. Yea, the Gaki's chakra reserves are all his own, without the help from the fox. Even the flow is a one-way. The only way around that would be to either have 2 sets of coils, or... Quote. He paused and looked over the seal as if seeing something was missing. He gasped, Sensei, this isn't the full seal. I almost bet the Gaki made a layer seal that split his coils into 2 sets, that were still connected in several places. Quote. He pointed to a few places in the array that more than likely only a seal master could find. See, here's where the separation seal would work, as well as adjusting the flow. It would render chakra exhaustion practically an unrealistic idea to him. Secondly, it would be easier to use the 2 different chakra, without destroying his control. I was wrong, this boy is a genius that even his father wouldn't be able to pass. Sarutobi listened to Jiraiya. He wasn't a seal master himself, but he knew a fair deal about the art. To hear what was being said was impressive, and he knew just who would benefit the most from a seal like this. He summoned an Anbu and had him deliver a message to Shibi to come to his office. Before he turned back to his former student. The rant made it quite amusing, as a mere boy had surpassed Jiraiya in hypothetical sealing. But then imagination was always a big part of what Fuinjutsu was about. Eventually Shibi arrived to find both the Hokage and the Sannin seated around the desk looking over a scroll. You requested my presence, Lord Hokage. Causing both men to look up from the scroll. Yes, Shibi, I have, because I have some questions before I make a decision. He motioned for the free seat, which the man took. You see, a student of Jiraiya's in Fuinjutsu has created a seal that would benefit your clan greatly if my memory serves me right. He slid the array over to Shibi to look at and read the description Naruto wrote as to the purpose of the seal. He read through the description, thinking it over and discussing it with the queen of his hive, which took them some more time to come to a logical and agreeable decision. So this seal would technically double our chakra stores, while cutting them in half to be used independently, he stated in a rather emotionless voice. Jiraiya nodded. Yea, both sides would still be usable, and when the secondary runs low, the seal will refill it from the primary. I could see why Sensei called you, and I bet the Gaki had your clan in mind when he made this. He mentioned that it would be for a clan when he showed it to us, and given his nature I will agree that it was for the Aburame clan, and yes, the seal does work as its creator has been using it for a year to test the kinks, I would imagine. The Hokage supplied. He also never mentioned recognition or payment for the seal. Shibi listened to the two respected men before him, as he thought over the benefits of the seal. His Kikai would have half of his total stores, which was less than what they should receive, but then they would be able to draw from a complete copy of his reserves, allowing him more than enough for other jutsu. His hive agreed that since it would double his total yet keep it in half, they would take only from the one reserve. We find this a most gracious gift. If I or my clan could express our gratitude to your student. Jiraiya snickered. Uzumaki Naruto, been teaching him for 3 years. Don't be obvious about it, I'm sure he doesn't need or want the extra attention. Shibi nodded. It won't be announced outside of my clan, but he will be considered a member. In all things, I will visit him personally tonight and deliver this information to him. Taking the scroll and bowing himself out, he left to have his clan start the preparations for the sealing, and to find a hive for the boy. Knowing full well they couldn't join with him because of his age. Naruto was sitting in the middle of his apartment, which he had been decorating with his seals. He found old, nearly destroyed furniture for free, a few repair seals and some henge-based seals made them all match and real. They were all experiments as to his 2 other seals, but he enjoyed the nice, refined look of his home. Even his potted plants had seals for watering and nutrients. He was going out of his way to figure out the limit to seals, but had found none so far. He was currently looking over the designs for the hand seal he was trying to make for his companion. When a knock on his door caused him to look up. Walking over, he tapped the seal on the door, which acted like a one-way mirror. Seeing that it wasn't a mob or anyone that looked like they would kill him, he opened the door. Can I help you, Aburame-sama? The man looked down at the boy, who was probably no older than his own son. Actually yes, but do you mind if I come inside? He asked stoically. Naruto nodded and allowed him to come in before shutting the door, and summoning a clone in the kitchen to make some tea. Tea will be ready in a moment, but you may sit if you like, since this seems less like a social visit. He said as Shiruba came out of the bedroom, hopping up on one of the chairs and laying down to watch. Shibi nodded. The boy didn't seem nervous, and his own Kikai were not reacting violently to the demon chakra in the boy. Which told him it was well contained and not an issue. That would be agreeable. He settled himself in one of the seats that looked rather nice and was truly comfortable. I came to visit you about the seal that you showed the Hokage and Jiraiya-sama. This was the opening, and he would see where it went from there. Naruto settled himself on the couch, and looked to Shiruba for a moment. He figured that out pretty quickly. But yes, I did design it for your clan after watching some of them train with their teams. With the clean sweep of the Uchiha, other clans need to be filling that void instead of waiting on them to come back in years. He looked to Shibi. Most of my mistreatment has been at that clan's hands, but I do not see why a single eye makes them better than the rest of us. I want to see this village strong, but not reliant on just 1 or 2 clans for their needs. He didn't want to see himself reliant on just one person either, but he struggled to pass that. He had Gigi, Ero Sanin, and Hana-chan. The list would grow over time. Shibi listened to the boy, hearing the bitter resentment in some of his words. Yet, the truth that echoed among them was a wisdom that no child should have attained. Not that it was wrong, but the life that this boy has led was unacceptable in any society, yet they forced it upon him for something he contained. Like his own clan shunned for their companions. I see, that makes much sense, and with the seal applied to my clan, that would be a solid step in that direction. Which is why I have come to make an offer for the seal. Naruto started to speak, but Shibi shook his head. Your goals are admirable and logical, but this is something I and my clan have agreed upon. He reached inside his long coat and pulled out a gourd that hung from a strap. What you have done in allowing my clan to have this seal has earned you a place among us. Though you aren't able to fully join with our Kikai, we wish for you to still have this hive. He handed the gourd over and watched as they swarmed out to meet their host. Now, they will require your chakra, but as to how you and they will bond is not something we have studied, as the bonding is done at the age of 3, yet with your unique advantage you may still bond with them, though the outcome is unsure. Naruto nodded his thanks. This would be another advantage in the future, as well he now had a full clan behind him. Thank you, Shibi-sama. I will cherish them as the honor that they are and that you have shown me. He was going to try and bond them tonight, that is all, though if or when you successfully bond with them, either internally or externally, please visit our compound so that we may observe the differences. Shibi spoke, as another Naruto brought out the tea and sat the tray down before dispelling. He raised a brow at this, but said nothing. A child using the cage bunshin, but logically given the size of this child's reserves it wasn't much. His own companions told him that they were unusually large. Naruto poured the tea and both discussed what this would mean for Naruto in the future, as far as sanctuaries, and training as well as a family of sorts. Not to mention the Aburame owned several shops in the village that would charge him fair prices as he was an honorary clan member. All of this Naruto thought over as he smiled, serving them both tea and speaking of a few things. Academy the next day. It was the first day of classes and Naruto's mission start date. The night before had been painful, but unexpected. After Shibi had left, he went through the bonding with the hive. The results were mixed and not at all expected. Half the hive didn't make it through the joining, as the demonic chakra destroyed them, the rest were severely weakened. The other interesting thing was that their tunnels sealed over in chakra after they entered his body. Natural mini hinges, leaving his body flawless in appearance as it was before the start of the process. But the most drastic difference he noted was that his Kikai did nothing but rest and start to breed within him. His chakra and that of the demon feeding, healing and changing the Kikai to match him left him tired and drained. He only knew that they wouldn't be able to leave his body for a long time, as they would die off quickly and have to adapt this his chakra and body in order to survive. For now he would forget about them, until they either died completely or became able to live inside him. The chakra depletion wasn't enough to bother him and left him with still more than enough for everything else. But now our blonde ninja in training seated himself in the classroom, and looked around, seeing several older students and a few from the clans. Namely an Inuzuka and their dog, giving him a strange look as Shiruba was laying across his shoulders. What's that fox doing here? He turned to look at the Inuzuka. He's my companion, just as your dog is yours, Inuzuka-san. He's registered as my nin kitsune. He smiled, for once glad to have the enlarged canines like the Inuzuka do, as it was a trait that separated them from others as they were more animal in nature. The boy laughed. You keep telling yourself that, when me and Sumeru beat the crap out of you, showing what a real companion is about. Causing Naruto to shake his head. You want me to prank him too, san? Which Naruto thought wasn't a half bad idea. Later. Soon the two instructors walked into the room. Quiet. I am Yumino Aruka. I will be your head instructor, and this is Humazuki. He will be acting as my assistant. The two looked over the students and were fine until both of their eyes landed on Naruto. Well, Urkua's was on the fox and Mizuki's was on Naruto. Both glared, but said nothing, though, which Naruto logged that away in the back of his mind for later reference. The rest of the lesson went slow. He already knew what they were teaching, and would take that time to work on the seals he was making for Shiruba. Which he thought if the Inuzuka proved to be useful like the Aburame did, he might even give them the seals as well, in exchange for allowing him free vet care for Shiruba. Many months passed like this, glares, challenges, and even more boring lectures on what he already had taught himself. But it gave him plenty of time to leave his clones at home to study and then dispel to give him the information, are to train on chakra control since they were now pushing into the medic level control. The rest worked on the leaf exercise for his elements, which he decided that once he got the seal for the hand seals right he would have Shiruba learn the Kage Bunshin too so they could stay home and work on their skills. As for his class ranking so far he hung at the bottom, the taijutsu they taught him was all wrong, but he used that one, he failed every test because they had genjutsu on them. He would randomly profess to becoming the greatest ninja ever, or spout off random topics that really didn't mean much. But they all left him pretty much alone except the Inuzuka. They had a sort of friendship that came to a rivalry whenever they sparred. Naruto of course learned their techniques but found them not usable with the Kitsune companion. Though it made interesting headway into his research into that area. But now it was summer break and he headed home, his Kikai have yet to balance themselves out inside his body. But something told him they would eventually. It was one of the reasons he had yet to visit the Aburame clan house, though the stores were frequented often, tools, clothes, food, and other essentials he bought from them. He visited Hana once a month still at the veterinarian's to let her check over Shiruba, since he started having the kitsune wear weight seals, and didn't want to strain the kit too much. The only seal he had managed to finish was the one that allowed Shiruba to start to talk. This used chakra to create the vibrations in the vocal cords and hold their shape as words and sounds. It just took the impulse from the brain and instead of making yips and barks it would created words and other sounds. Thanks Hana-chan, Shiruba said after he hopped back over to Naruto's shoulder, causing the girl to jump in shock. Did he just talk? To which Naruto smiled and nodded his head. How? Our dogs don't develop that until they are much older. And even then nothing that defined in such a short time. Naruto smiled. It's a seal. It converts his thoughts that he wants to say, with chakra to created to sound patterns of words. The boy smiled. I could give them to your dogs if you want, though you would need to spend time working with them on chakra control for the volume and let them work on making the words right. Hana thought about it, and having her trio talk would be awesome and it might help her when working with other dogs so they could translate. Yeah, I'll do it. Besides, if mom likes the idea we can maybe buy the seal from you or something. Naruto smiled and pulled out a storage scroll, releasing 3 slips of paper. Placing one on each dog's muzzle he pushed the chakra into the paper transferring the seal over to the dogs. Before the papers flashed to dust, the faint outline of the seal was visible before it stretched and wrapped around the head of all the dogs, as it sunk into their fur to become invisible. There, now depending on their chakra levels, their control and their own intelligence they should be pretty fluent and understandable in a few days. He said looking over the dogs to make sure the seal settled into place, and was happy with the placements. But yeah, if your clan likes the seal, I'm sure they might even like the other one I am working on. He said with a mysterious smirk. Hana just smiled, seeing as if this was a sample of the kid's sealing ability, and this worked out for his own companion it would severely help the younger children in her clan adjust to working with the Ninken. Can they still understand and use their own language? He smiled. Yea, they can, so it can still be a secret as I only wanted to better understand Shiruba, but the other seal will help them learn and use jutsu like we do. He smiled. Naruto was so glad that people were liking his seals. That in his plan to build up the village away from the Uchiha was also working. The only good Uchiha is Itachi or a dead one. He thought darkly wondering how his many times rescuer was doing. Well, thank you Naruto-kun. After I work with the triplets I will show it to my mom, she's the clan head after all so it's up to her if she wants the seal for the whole clan or not. Hana knew she would take it with a grain of salt since she seemed to dislike the boy for some reason. Well, we will see you next month. Come on Shiruba, we need to go train, your control is still not that great. Naruto said after he started walking to the door. But San, I haven't been working as long as you. The kitsune said as he followed Naruto out the door causing Hana to crack up laughing. As they were walking out of the compound, both stopped catching the now familiar scent of Sumeru and Kurama. Looking around the corner, I know you two are there, I can smell you and so can Shiruba. The two aforementioned Inuzuka and Ninken came around the corner. Dang it, Naruto, you're just as hard to sneak up on as mom. The boy and dog smiled. Well, that either means you need to learn to cover your scent better or not sneak up on people from downwind. Naruto smiled at his friend. Shiruba ran over to Sumeru and they started rolling around playing with each other. Alright, maybe, but you're the coolest person in our class. I don't see how you fail. After all, you help me study all the time during lunch. Kurama said as he was trying to wrap his mind around it and failing. Naruto sighed. Well, he would test out Kurama on if the boy could handle the truth, so to speak. Well, if I told you it dealt with an S-class secret, and that people are stupid, would you agree with me? Kurama, if he had dog ears, would have perked up at that. Instead he settled for nodding. Well, the Hokage made a law so anyone that wasn't old enough to remember wouldn't be told. So that's why the adults kick me around. He smiled sadly as he watched the other boy for any signs of doing the same to him. Well, the fourth Hokage didn't kill the Kyuubi. You can't kill them, just contain them, or in his case seal them. He waited for the gears to fall into place. So he didn't kill the demon, instead he sealed it. Well, then why does that have to deal with you? Naruto sighed again as he really wanted to share this with someone his own age. Let me ask you a question first. If I sealed a kunai into a scroll, does that make the scroll a kunai? He watched for anything that might make him regret telling the boy. Kurama tilted his head, thinking and looking much along the lines of, what does this have to do with it? No, that's just stupid. He paused, a light going off. He sealed the demon into you. To which Naruto nodded. But why? Why not a scroll or a something else? Naruto let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. Well, because it has so much chakra that it would break the seal, but since it was sealed into a baby, the body would hold the chakra and pull on it to keep it weakened in there. He looked up at his friend. You hate me too now, don't you? Kurama was a bit shocked. Hell no. I mean, you're not a demon running around killing everyone. Though that really explains why you smell like a fox. I always figured it was because of Shiruba, but then my whole clan smells like a dog even without being around them. He tilted his head to the side, but like you said, you're not the fox but the scroll it's stuck in. He nodded his head with a note of finality. Naruto could have hugged him at that point. Thanks. It means a lot that I have at least one friend that knows and doesn't think any different. The Inuzuka came over and wrapped his arm around the blonde, giving him a noogie. Nah, just means Sumeru and I are going to have to work harder to beat you with you demon battery. He laughed and the Ninken barked in agreement. Well, Shiruba and I were going to go and train to work out some moves for us to use together, like your clan does. It's just we're not straight fighters like you are, so it's not easy, but who knows? I figure everything else out on my own, so why should this be any different? The Inuzuka and his dog were looking at their friend in a twisted understanding. They knew Naruto was faster than them. Even he was more flexible and hurt like hell when he hit, but they could see he was stronger. Well, aren't kitsune usually tricky? Like maybe genjutsu-style attacks rather than head-on ones? He asked out loud in thought. I mean, if you could figure out a version of the man-beast clone, that would be useful. He worried his lip. I would try and help, but they're clan secrets. Maybe you could talk to mom, or maybe Sum, since she's the alpha for the clan, she would know more. The blonde nodded at the mention of genjutsu. It was really an area that he hadn't found a need to learn himself, but maybe working with Shiruba it might work, and it would be interesting. It looked like it was time to start studying them and see what they could do in tandem, and maybe have the kitsune do on his own. The clone they do would work too, and he could see the implications behind that as well. It would take some training to get it down. Yay, maybe. Thanks, Kurama. He flashed a fox-like grin. Come on, Shiruba, we have all summer to train, and make sure these two don't beat us. Kurama smirked. Oh yay. Well, Sumeru and I will just work twice as hard. He shook his fist at the retreating people. Come by and spar us sometime this summer. 2 months into the summer break, Naruto was sitting in his now overtly lavish apartment. He enjoyed sealing too much and had definitely used quite a few for just the purpose of decor. Yet that isn't what he was doing right this moment. No, rather he was bent over a large seal on a scroll checking it for mistakes. Having worked how the individual hand seals into a seal form which he found already existed, irked him a little. Though that part out of the way, he was working on a way to activate the different seals in multiple and random orders so that they would manipulate chakra to form jutsu. There being only 12 seals was helpful, so not that many were needed. However, looking over jutsu that were far beyond his level of skill showed that repeats of seals would be needed. The idea of a limiter seal like the ones used in flash tags had crossed his mind. It won't work this way. He rolled the scroll up and put it in the shelf of, not a clue, which held several attempts of many different seals he was working on. Standing up, he stretched, his back cracking before he looked around the room. He flared his chakra to signal his clones to disperse. After a letter to the Hokage, about how small his apartment was and if he could just buy the building or give him a better apartment. Well, the Hokage bought the building, and sent the rent to Naruto, which he used his clones and studied up on construction and some house architecture. After that, he took over the top floor and turned it into a penthouse lab. He still checked on his Kikai, but they had yet to last longer than the hatching of the next generation, though they were adapting to his unique chakra better. He figured at this rate another year before they would even do more than feed and breed. But there was really nothing he could do right now for them than hope. Which is why his attention turned to the memories from his clones. He was up to the second level of elemental manipulation, which he smirked at. Something he could do this summer, as he pulled the scrolls Jiraiya had given him, looking back through the list of jutsu. The wind blade and hidden mist techniques were the two he was working on. He could keep up the mist for almost an hour now, but the wind blade kept moving it. He was determined to find a way around that. So he created the air blade, feeling the way his chakra moved in it. When it dawned on him that the air was pushing outward from the blade, he focused on having the wind cycle inward. Of course, this made it much denser and had a slight whistling sound he barely heard, which to him meant no one would hear it. Dismissing the blade, he summoned the mist in his lab, and then reformed the blade. The effect was noticeable as the blade sucked in the vapors, pushing them out the end of the blade. With a sigh, he dismissed both. Shiruba, come here. He waited on the kitsune to come into the room, which the silver fox soon appeared in a streak of speed. Good, now we are going to work out how to teach you jutsu without seals, since I can't get that seal to work. Well, I figured out how you do that clone thing. You stopped using seals for it. The kitsune said with a smirk in his voice. From what you made me read, Pout, all the hand seals do is help control your chakra into a pattern to create the jutsu. He jumped up on the table. So really I just need to be able to learn the patterns for the jutsu. I mean, the Kage Bunshin doesn't even use a real hand seal. Naruto listened to Shiruba as he explained it from a different viewpoint. It was true he was using the shadow clones without hand seals, which meant he had mastered the technique. Mastered. Control, manipulation, patterns. He started smiling as his eyes brightened with the ideas. Shiruba, I love you. The fox preened under the praise from his 2-san. As he sat there, see, I am so much better than those ninkin. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. He focused for a moment before a cloud of smoke appeared, revealing another silver fox, though Shiruba seemed pretty tired. Ha! Naruto spun around, hearing the jutsu being called out and feeling the chakra. He saw the smoke fade, revealing another fox, and smiled. How did you figure that out? Well, I have seen you do it every day for almost a year, 2-san. Besides, I can sense chakra, so I just mimic the feelings. It takes longer than learning from the seals like you do, but if I can remember the feeling of them, I can copy them. He swished his tail happily. Naruto thought on that for a while. Alright, how much chakra do you feel you have left? Well, I think I could make one more, but I would pass out. He said sincerely. Naruto smiled, knowing how much chakra this took. Even if he could use less, he put just as much as everyone else would have too. Well, until you can make 3, I want you to make 1 every day and leave with one of my clones who will go through all the seals with you until you can mimic them yourself. While the real you is working on chakra building. So more weights and tree and water walking exercises until you pass out. He smirked. When you can do 3 clones, I'll give you all the genjutsu scrolls one can. Since I will focus on ninjutsu, you can focus on genjutsu. Then we have our taijutsu together. I do fuinjutsu, so maybe you can talk Hana-ne-chan into teaching you some medical jutsu. The fox was smiling, even through his inability to do so you could tell, so that means I can start doing the Raiden training now too then, right to San? Naruto nodded, which wasn't a problem seeing how the jutsu he had for Raiden were stunning attacks, and quick strikes which would work perfectly for his companion. A week before the academy started back, Naruto was sitting in Hana's office as she checked Shiruba over, her 3 ninkin talking to each other and them. Everything was going according to usual until an older woman came in, which caused Naruto and Shiruba to tense up from her scent. She was the alpha, they couldn't explain it, but that is just the smell she gave off. Hana, what are you doing? Hana jerked up and looked at her. Sama, I was just giving Shiruba a checkup for Naruto. The woman looked from Hana to the fox and then to Naruto. She sniffed the scent of fox was heavy in the room between the fox and the boy himself. She could have sworn she heard more voices than just 2 people. Who else was here? I heard them talking when I was passing by. The young Inuzuka looked to Naruto, who just nodded a little bit, since the ninkin could speak just like they could now. They had picked up how to do it rather quickly, which must be because they grew up listening to it, along with the joining they went through seemed to increase their intelligence. Well, that would be the ninkin and Shiruba. She scratched the back of her head, in a gesture she picked up from the blonde. You see, Naruto made a seal that let Shiruba talk, and I let him put it on my ninkin. Shiruba, sensing the slightly hostile and disbelieving air, Ye-to-san let me talk like he does, and did the same for Hana-chan's ninkins. Isn't that right? He spoke, causing Sum's brows reach her hairline. The 3 dogs decided to speak up and save their friends. Yay! Naruto put the seals on us, which was really weird but cool at the same time, so we could talk and it let us understand better too. They started talking and each would pick up where the last one left off. It was kind of creepy, but they were triplets. Sum looked at the dogs as they spoke, back to Hana, Shiruba, and then to Naruto. Let me see the seal. She ordered, to which Naruto pulled out the scroll and popped one out of the storage seal and handed it to her. See, it connects the thoughts they want to voice, to their chakra and vocal cords. So it produces the words. Like we do. He started to speak slowly but got more confident as he went. It took them almost 3 months to get this good. Though they can still speak through their usual ways, I just wanted to do something nice for Hana since she helps me with keeping Shiruba healthy. Sum may be crude and very much an animal when it came down to it, but she knew quite a bit about sealing. Not enough to be considered a master, but enough to do it for the simple seals. She looked over the seal and noticed it shared similar ties to a few mind control seals, but it tied it to the body from its own mind. What's the chakra have to do with it though? Our ninkin learn to speak on their own if they choose. Naruto unabashed. Well, it's to help heal any damage to the cords, and using the chakra helps build control and reserves for your ninkin. It's how Shiruba has started to learn some jutsu on his own. He said proudly. To which Sum looked between the boy and the fox. She wanted to be angry that he was here, but he was only a pup. One that seemed to take after her clan with working with a canine. Everything she thought of to make her hate him, faded now that she was talking to him. It all fell on the fox he had sealed inside, not him. She cursed herself for falling into the mindset along with the rest of the village. Well, you give my clan the seal, and you can have free treatments for him here. I'll even see if we have any jutsu that might work for you that we don't use because styles have changed. But no telling anyone about this seal, or that our clan is sharing jutsu. Got it, pup? Naruto held his smile inside, as he tilted his head to the side in a submissive gesture that she picked up on. Yes, Sum-sama. This seal will make your clan stronger, and the village since the Uchiha have fallen. The glint in his eye at that didn't get past her either. True, she wasn't going to shed more tears than needed at that loss, but to give her clan an edge up and to help the village she wasn't going to look a gift horse in the mouth. Fine, next time you come for a check-in I will have anything I think will be worthwhile I'll have here. Naruto nodded in understanding as she turned to look at Hana, before she walked out the door. Everyone their side as a relief flooded them. He unsealed a large stack of the seals and handed them to Hana, just remind her that the seal should be used after bonding with the Ninken. To be safe. Last year in the academy. Naruto, now 11, stood a little more than 5 foot tall, his blonde hair grown longer, but still pulled back leaving the bangs to frame his face. Stood in the back of the classroom, he couldn't wait for this year to be over. He ran a hand to straighten out his clothes, dark blue Anbu-style pants, and closed-toed shoes that were flexible. His shirt, the same dark blue, was sleeveless to reveal the full-length sleeves of the black ninja mesh shirt he wore under it. A modified black trench, with the Uzumaki swirl on its back in blue, hung open with several pockets for scrolls. At his side sat probably the largest fox anyone had ever seen. His twin tails twitching as he sat on his haunches, Shiruba's head coming to Naruto's waist. This would be his last year here, and he couldn't be more grateful. Fail or pass the exam, he was already a genin. The Hokage had taken care of that last year, in private of course. But he was interested since Sum's son Kiba and Shibi's son Shino would be in his class this year. So he would have friends of a sort. He did miss Kurama, but he was graduated and doing missions now for a few years. He simply sat in his seat and waited. It didn't take long for last year's students to make their way in. It seemed he was in the class for heirs, which after the losses of the Kyuubi attack many had sought to refill their numbers. Hyuga, Akamaki, Nara, the Uchiha, Inuzuka, Yamanaka, and several others, including civilians that sought the glory of ninja life. He motioned for Shino to sit with him, getting a nod from the boy. He was soon joined by Shikamaru and Choji. Shino looked at him strangely, if it could be said as such, from within his coat and glasses, before a single kikai flew over and crawled up the boy's sleeve. Naruto just nodded before he returned his gaze to the other two. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, I already am familiar with Shino. He nodded his head to indicate the Aburame. Troublesome, the Nara said. I'm Shikamaru and this is Choji. He indicated the heavier boy that was currently eating handfuls of chips. What's with the kitsune? Naruto smiled, looking down at Shiruba. He's my companion, much like the Inuzuka use Ninken or the Aburame use their kikai. To which he felt the boy's kikai move out of his arm and fly back to Shino. The other two boys seemed oblivious to this action. Shino seemed to be thinking, which Naruto knew it was conversing with his hive. You are the one father spoke of. To which Naruto nodded, he had yet to have the Aburame look over his hive. I suggest you visit soon, father would be interested in this development. Naruto nodded his agreement, it was long overdue. Perhaps you would escort us there after classes today. To which Shino nodded. The whole conversation had caught the Nara's attention. As he had known Shino for several years, and had never heard his friend talk so much in a relative amount of time. He would file it away for later, as right now interrupting them would be too troublesome. Things continued on until two girls, one blonde and one with strange pink hair, walked in together only to stop and see only one seat near the Uchiha. They both started a cat fight over who got to sit there. Shouts and yells disrupted the rather peaceful classroom. This was what Iruka and Mizuki walked in on. Quiet. He coughed after yelling, now take a seat so we may begin. If you refuse to follow my rules you will be out the door and off the list to be shinobi. The class quickly settled down. Now we are going to spend today evaluating your skills so we can adjust ourselves or work with you on them. He placed several papers on the board that held categories and names of the students. We will begin with a written test. followed by splitting into these groups and cycling through the different categories. With that said, Mizuki passed out the tests, and they began working on them. Naruto, on the other hand, wrote random answers, not truly seeing the point for him as he could see the genjutsu on the test. After school, Naruto, Shino, Shikamaru and Choji were walking down the street. Naruto, how come everything they had you perform was so much more advanced or worded poorly? The Nara wanted to know. It had confused him how the blonde was being treated and the fact that Naruto simply seemed to let it wash over him. Naruto sighed. They dislike me for something that happened on my birthday 11 years ago. I had no control over it, yet they insist on taking out their anger, hatred and grief on me. He didn't really give much away, but to the Nara that was more than enough. Shino, on the other hand, knew what that was, not because he was told but because he was informed by the Kikai within him. Naruto and he both knew it wouldn't be long before the Nara put it together enough to ask. Well, this is where we part ways. Naruto, if you still wish to come with me to see my father, we must head this way. He indicated a path diverging from the other two boys. Naruto just nodded and waved to the other two as they split up. The two walked in silence as they approached the Aburame compound. It was more of a sprawling home with several outer houses in a network. They were very simple and efficient, being the only word Naruto could come up with for them. Crossing through the main gate, the two were covered in kikai, this being the reason not many came to visit. It was simply a security measure, as you were either allowed, had kikai, or you were an intruder and would be sucked dry. These two were simply left alone to pass through the cloud to enter the main courtyard. Naruto stepped aside to let Shino lead the way as he didn't know where to go. So he followed the boy through the house into his father's office, where Shibi was seated at his desk going over some documents. Father, I have brought Uzumaki-san with me. He has an interesting situation that I am sure you will be able to assist him with. Shino spoke, then bowed out to leave. Naruto stood there as Shibi nodded to his son and watched him leave. So Naruto, what would be the situation, as I would appear to deal with your kikai? The blonde took a moment to speak. I have bonded with the hive that you gave me, though the outcome is quite different. They seem to be having difficulty adapting to my chakra. They live long enough to create the next generation, though they seem to be living longer now as I have felt their numbers growing slowly. He looked to the clan head. If you wish, you may send one to investigate, as you would know more about this. Shibi nodded, and sent a kikai to speak with Naruto's. In the meantime, I would again like to thank you for the seal, as all members now wear it and it's placed after the birth of all new members before they receive their hives. He spoke calmly, though he would admit to be intrigued by this development, and wished the boy had come sooner. But perhaps they had to evolve to accommodate the chakra of the demon. It was a few moments before the kikai came out and flew back into one of the many holes on Shibi, whom like his son seemed to be listening to voices that no one else could hear. Well, it is just as you said, though there is more to it. He paused and turned in his chair to search for a scroll. Finding it, he pulled it from the shelf, opening it up. Part of the issue is we never placed the jutsu on you for them to fully bond, but they seem to be doing that on their own. Yet I will work this to speed them along, as your hive should be nearly 30 times this size by now. Naruto nodded, as his go ahead. Shibi then flashed through seals and placed his white glowing hand on Naruto. The surge of chakra washed over him, seeming to sink into his body. The kikai reacted and started to move around rapidly. As the light faded, they too settled down. There, that jutsu works to create a haven inside your body for them to nest without the true strength of your chakra weighing on them. Though I am curious as to what they look like after so long. Naruto thought on that, and felt one slip out of his arm to his hand. This was the first time he had seen them since they sunk into his body. They were a deep purple color. This one seemed to stretch his wings before he fluttered around a bit, then flew off to the mon's desk. Shibi pulled out a magnifying glass, and started looking over the details of the kikai. The carapace coloring was obvious from so many forced generations of breeding near the chakra, advanced pincers, and what appeared to be a poison sac were visible. This appears to be a guard, though it's different than the hive you were given. They have adapted to your chakra, but now they have a stable place to build their hive within you now. The Kikai flew back into the boy's arm. Is there anything else I should be aware of now that my foolishness has been corrected? True, Naruto realized he should have seen them after he tried to bond them, but maybe he was prideful and didn't want help. Though now he could feel the pull on his chakra adding to them, and hoped they wouldn't take much seeing as it was denser than normal. But then they had been living his chakra for 2 years, growing to live off of it by the look they were feeding of his Kyuubi mixed chakra, if the slightly more demonic build and coloring were an indication. Shibi saw the look that filtered across the boy's face. For now, do not use them until they let you know they are strong enough to be used. Shibi thought over this. I would say another year, since I am sure their breeding rate is accelerated. As well as they have adapted and evolved to live without the jutsu, they are far different from our own breeds. Though if you would give us a starter hive to study once yours has rebuilt, we would appreciate it. Naruto nodded. He wouldn't screw up like this again. They spoke more over the Kikai and what Naruto could expect over the next several months as his colony grew in size and adjusted to the jutsu and his chakra. As well as other things, and investments Naruto wanted to make with the money he was earning from his stipend, mission, and owning the complex he lives in. Jump ahead to graduation. The months of boredom flew by for the young blonde, yet he still managed to keep up on his own studying and work. His grades were worse than anyone's, and effectively placed him dead last of his class once more. Yet today would be the practical end of his mission, and pretending to be stupid or just failing his classes. He had just been called into the exam room, and performed 2 of the 3 required jutsu, a henge and the substitution. Now it was time for the part that he always failed thanks to someone using a henge on his clones. Though he believed it was Mizuki, today would prove everything. Now Naruto, if you fail this test again you will never be able to be a ninja. Iruka stated, with a tinge of worry for the boy who seemed to strive so hard for the role. Slowly going through the hand seals, he summoned several regular Bunshin. He knew they were fine, yet once the smoke cleared there were several half-dead looking clones either laying or floating around the room. Iroquois shook his head sadly. I'm sorry Naruto, but you fail. Mizuki interrupted. Come on Iruka, cut the kid some slack. No, it's the rules, I won't bend them, I'm sorry. Naruto shook his head and walked out of the room, taking his seat near Shino and his friends. He just looked down at Shiruba and gave him a wink. It would all soon be over. But for now Iruka walked out and gave some announcements about meeting back here in 2 days for team placement for those that passed, and for those that didn't, good luck in whatever career they chose, or he would see them next year. Naruto and Shiruba walked outside and mingled around the training field, acting depressed over the fact that he didn't make it again. Though inwardly he hoped that this would end his ruse of being a failure, though almost 4 years of the stigma would be a bitch to wear off. When he spotted Mizuki looking right at him. I'm sorry you couldn't pass the normal way. The instructor said. Naruto tilted his head. What do you mean normal way? Is there another one? Mizuki hid his smile. Yay, but it's not as easy as these tests. I don't know if you will be able to pass it. I can do anything. Come on Mizuki-sensei, let me at least try. He gave a small pout. Even Shiruba had whined a little. I got the brat now. Well, this is what you have to do. Hokage's office. And I am supposed to bring the forbidden scroll to the clearing tonight by 9. Naruto finished retelling Mizuki's secondary exam. I would need the scroll to make it convincing, though I am sure with his superiority complex to me I would be able to take him with Shiruba. The Hokage pondered over this, and the reports on the 2 instructors, and had to agree that Mizuki was definitely the traitor. As for his reasons to want the forbidden scroll, it was more than likely to take it out of the village and to someone else. That he could not allow, but letting Naruto take the scroll as bait was the only true way to do so. Very well, I will organize to have the scroll in my office around 7, though I will organize a small group of Anbu 20 minutes after you have left with the scroll. He sighed. That should give you enough time to set up and study the scroll and potentially catch Mizuki off guard, though if he is not alone I do not want you to engage. Is that clear? Naruto nodded that he understood, as right now this was the Hokage and not Gigi. It was a strange duality between them, leader and soldier, at times at others grandfather and grandson. Yes, Hokage-sama. Shortly after 7, Naruto and Shiruba bounded out of the Hokage's office, and took off through the streets, both sending 3 clones to run off in other places as they headed towards the clearing, which they landed in a short 20 minutes later, just as the Anbu would be summoned, giving them a fair window of time. He pulled the large scroll off of his back and opened it, passing up the cage bunshin and the chakra threads. No, this time he was going to see what else could be useful that wouldn't be illegal to use too often. There were a few jutsu and seals, but none of them held promise until he got halfway through the scroll. 2 jutsu seemed to stick out. One was a bloodline copy jutsu. This one seemed to create a weak version of the victim's bloodline in the user, which Naruto could see the potential in that, as well as he doubted it would stay weak for long once the Kyuubi woke up again. The other was called the Chakra Shroud. Reading through its description, the jutsu basically creates a layer of chakra over your skin that constantly drains on your chakra. However, it deflects most weapon attacks and would reduce a fair bit of damage from jutsu. Naruto could see why that could be an issue for most people, but for him chakra was readily available should he be forced into pulling on the Kyuubis. Though given his bloodline, the expenditure was less since his chakra was naturally denser because of it. He took the time to commit the seals for both of those jutsu to memory, though he didn't know of any bloodlines that he would really want to copy to himself. Checking the time, he had a few minutes before Mizuki would arrive, so he created several clones and had them hide just outside the clearing. Shiruba, get up in the tree, and stay safe. The kitsune jumped and ran up the tree, to perch and wait for the perfect moment, well in his mind the perfect moment. With kitsune you never really know what they are thinking and have planned, which that is something Naruto did as well. Within a few moments Mizuki appeared. Well, it seems like you did it. Now hand over the scroll and we can give you your promotion. Naruto looked at him with a funny grin on his face. You came alone. Foolishness. Kurigakure no jutsu. He flew through seals, causing a thick fog to flood the clearing and much further out as well. Picking up and placing the scroll on his back securely. By order of the Hokage, you are under arrest for treason. Mizuki looked around and couldn't see anything. How did the brat do this? It must be in that scroll. You think a little fog will save you from me? Naruto's voice came from all directions. Not really, but it's enough that I can get you. His clones from earlier lunged out, striking at Mizuki from all angles with the Uzukan fists, pulsing chakra into the Mon's pathways, disrupting and rupturing several of them. We don't need to see you, we can hear you, and smell you. From above Mizuki heard a different voice, Raiden, Kitsune shock tackle. The sound of electricity crackled through the mist before it collided with Mizuki, surging through the Mon's body, causing him to scream as the moisture in the air only served to dampen him and increase the power from the Raiden attack. Soon to be followed by a silent thud of an unconscious man. Dismissing the mist jutsu, he quickly tied the man up and ensured his own headband was tied snugly around his bicep and put the collar with the leaf plate on Shiruba. Then he tied up the unconscious traitor, before hefting him over his shoulder, and giving the kitsune the forbidden scroll. They took off for the tower. Hokage's office. Naruto and Shiruba jumped through the window, and soundly tossed Mizuki to the floor near the old Mon's desk. Got him, alive. Naruto looked to Shiruba, who quickly trotted over and let the Hokage take the scroll back. Would you like the full report or just the last few hours? The Hokage looked at the Chunin that was knocked out and tied up laying in front of his desk. Then back to the young boy who had done all of this, with the help his kitsune. No, Naruto, that will be fine. Given the severity of what may have happened with the scroll, I have observed the entire encounter through my crystal. He waved his hand to indicate the small orb that sat on his desk. I will have the traitor sent to Ibiki for questioning, Now though I want to know what jutsu you managed to pick up from the scroll, as I saw you use Kage Bunshin, I can assume that you already knew of that skill. Naruto nodded. I had time to also learn the chakra thread, not lying but stretching the time that I learned that one in. I also memorized the signs for the chakra shroud, which I believe I could use efficiently for periods of time. The Hokage didn't detect any lies from the boy, and given the time, those two skills would be the least of his troubles if he managed to get any other skills from the scroll. Those two will not be difficult for you, but I would suggest you keep the shrouds used to a minimum. The thread given your bloodline may end up more of a weapon than just a skill. Naruto had come to realize that as well, but didn't show a voice that he could do so. I see, I will look into that. Now, is there anything else, Hokage-sama? Sarutobi looked at the boy. Yes, unfortunately there is. Hitaki Kakashi has requested you specifically for his team. However, since he is the only user of a Sharingan in the village, he will also have Sasuke. He watched Naruto twitch at the young Uchiha's name. I request my actual scores from your and Jiraiya's exam be the scores I am to qualify with for team placement. Naruto said. It was truly the only way to avoid being stuck on the tem of an Uchiha's team. Those results should place me as the number one student, and remove any chance of placing me on his team, because that would be an unfair advantage to have the two highest ranked genin together. The Hokage smiled slightly. Though he didn't know how he was going to tell Kakashi. Well, with you being the rookie of the year, 4 years in a row, that would more than likely make your team yourself, Kiba and Sakura. But I don't see you keeping her alive. The Hokage said. I will not break up Asuma's team, which is the Ino-Shika-Cho combination, but I can place you on Kurenai's team. Since you are similar to the Inuzuka with Shiruba, it won't disrupt her dynamic, and we will place Kiba with Kakashi. He muttered more to himself, so that would give you Shino and Hinata as your team. Naruto thought it over, and felt slightly sorry for Kiba, though he took to the rivalry with Sasuke. He didn't really know Kiba all that well, but he was slightly worse than he and Kurama were the first 2 years. I think that will work out better. The rivalry from Kiba to the Uchiha will drive him to suicide, he hoped. Well, that's settled. I will inform the Junin of their teams tomorrow, and here's your pay and bonus for completion of the mission. The bonus was for bringing him in alive to question. Sarutobi handed over the envelope with quite a bit of money in it. Now I will be placing this mission in your file, though not the length of time it lasted. He smiled, as Naruto looked up from his pay and smiled back. Having a solo C-rank mission as a genin is a tremendous start. Oh, before I leave, Gigi, how come you don't use Kage Bunshin to do your paperwork? He laughed as he and Shiruba jumped out the window. The relief of being done with acting and being treated as if he were stupid, and not having to be stuck with the Uchiha, washed over him, and he decided that no training tonight to celebrate. Junin meeting. Next day. Sarutobi sat at his desk as he looked over the group of Junin. Asuma, Kurenai, Hyatt, and surprisingly Kakashi was on time. Though that may have been because he told him 9 a.m. and everyone else 11 a.m. But who cared, they were all there. As you know, you four will be taking on teams this year. Though with recent events I have had to adjust your teams with the release of some previously classified information. He enjoyed building up the suspense. Coughing to clear his throat. With this information, Kakashi, I have to deny your request for Naruto Uzumaki. He passed out the correct student file for the Junin to look over, since he, Jiraiya, and Ibiki all had a hand in testing the boy's skills. As you can all see, he is the rookie of the year, as such I cannot stack the teams. Kakashi along with the other Junin looked over the boy's scores, and true ability levels. Hokage-sama, you can't be serious, there's no way he Su. Kakashi, Naruto as of last night completed a C-rank solo mission, to track down and capture a Chunin who had stolen the Forbidden Scroll. I think my judgment along with Jiraiya and Ibiki's on the boy's skills should be more valuable than that of a Chunin instructor. The Hokage stated with a bit of killing intent leaking. The rest of the Junin nodded, though Kakashi didn't look so happy about it. Would I have gotten him if he were the dead last? No. He requested several years ago to never be teamed with a Sharingan or an Uchiha. The Hokage said sadly. He can remember most of the attacks against him when he was younger, being fire jutsu and the Sharingan being visible far too often. It's better if they aren't teamed, as he would do nothing to help Sasuke and would, given the chance, just let him die. He remembered hearing Naruto mutter his thoughts on the Uchiha a few times. The only good Uchiha is a dead one, or Itachi, I believe were his exact words. I can't fault the boy for his sentiments, but given Sasuke's personality and desire to kill Itachi, I think we all know which side Naruto would take, given Itachi was Naruto's primary rescuer from most of the attacks on him as a child. The gathered Junin hid their reactions to the fact that Naruto would gladly let the Uchiha die, then help him, but the small story that the Hokage gave them they could understand. If that was the worst thing about Naruto, they could handle that. Kurenai spoke up. So then what will the teams be? Well, Team 7 will be Kiba Inuzuka, Sakura Haruno and Sasuke Uchiha with Kakashi. He handed him the stats on his team. Team 8 will be Shino Aburame, Hinata Hyuga and Naruto Uzumaki under Kurenai. Handing her the team adjustment stats as well. 10 will be the new Ino-Shika Cho combination under Asuma, and 11 will be with Hyatt. And there was no changes to your selection. He pulled out his pipe and lit it, taking a few drags. You are all dismissed. Team pickup will be tomorrow at noon. They all filed out with the exception of Kakashi. Hokage-sama, please reconsider. Sarutobi looked into the one eye of the man. Kakashi, Naruto would rather resign being a ninja than being placed with an Uchiha, and he wouldn't respect you because of that eye. That, and I know of the council's orders for you to focus only on Sasuke. Kiba will have his clan to fall back on. Sakura will worship and do whatever Sasuke wants. Just as the council had her trained. I will not put Naruto on your team for the fear of him quitting, killing him, or going rogue. Surely the boy couldn't be capable of killing, yet he would hesitate. Not with Sasuke, he wouldn't. He doesn't see him as human, just trash that needs to be taken out. The only reason he hasn't yet is because I promised him that he wouldn't be teamed with him. That's the end of it, and please drop it. It's what he wants, Sarutobi pleaded with his eyes to the man.